Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. And right after a bustling weekend, um, this morning, it took me about a half hour to get out a lot of the overnight processing of the mucus. Good morning, everybody. And so, just so you guys know, if you don't want to get sick, because morning, everybody, I walk into different environments all the different times. Even though I'm pretty much home during the week, when my husband and I hang out together, we see different people, okay? And so I am around the general population and all of their data, bacteria, viruses, and all that. So my body still has to process and adapt to the environment. And I bring home the environment with me. It's not like I have a Faraday cage where I'm like in this bubble. It's the body has to go and process, or what John says, recycle the environment, and then take what you need from it and then disperse the rest. Okay. So from a very long weekend, it wasn't really long, but it was a lot of different people that I was hanging out with. My body was taking in the environment, and this morning it processed the environment. And I guess it takes a few days, because I was at one person's house on Saturday and another person's house last night. And so, and everybody has their stuff, and that's fine. I was outside and inside and just doing what I do. But this morning, I was coughing a little bit, and I'm like, oh, interesting. And so I woke up this morning, took a hot shower, just got rid of everything that was inside and I hawked up a few loogies that were green. So I knew that I was exposed to a virus, that my body was then saying, okay, I'm taking the excess data from those viruses and bacteria and compartmentalizing and putting them in your mucus ducts. And then it's going to be here at the surface for when you are ready to go and release them. And so I went and released them. Okay. So that's what mucus is. It's the body's holding tank of excess data that your body doesn't need, and you have to release it. It doesn't make sense to take medicine to try to dry it up or stop it. You allow it, and you have to fight for it. You have to be strong to get it out, because sometimes that stuff is deep inside your throat or your nose cavity, and you have to fight to get it out. So for those that are strong enough to be able to go to different environments and not fall ill, you have to see the indicators, okay? And then you release it, okay? And so you have to notice these things. And sometimes you need to have a hot shower. And then I also have peppermint oil and water that I put in, peppermint oil and water that I usually just brush my teeth and just kind of freshen my breath. And then I also put on a washcloth and just kind of wipe my face over, just because that's what I've always done, and it's great. And so when I gargle with peppermint oil and water, and it's a lot of water with a little bit of peppermint oil, it actually helps get the stuff out too. Okay, so it's just one of those things. It's one of those little biohacks that I do that if need be, but I don't usually do it every morning, only just when I feel like, okay, the body was around a lot of different people, because you can tell. All right, some of you, and this is the thing, a lot of you are around a lot of people all the time. You're in the general population every single day. And so you are fighting the elements and fighting other people's bacteria and data, viruses, every single day. So it's almost like you have to really train your body to get rid of the excess, or else guess what? You then come down with cancer, disease, chronic illness, flu bugs, colds, and all of that, okay? But since I don't go out to general population every single day during the week, I pretty much kind of stay in my head and in my home. And then, so it's like my own little Faraday cage, okay? And then when I actually go hang out with my husband and friends, then I'm exposed to everybody and their mother. Though I do sometimes will go, if I want to, go to the store during the week, but I don't usually. I have a food supply that I don't need so much food that I can live and not have to shop. Like I didn't have to shop this week for any food, okay? So I'll do more of the shopping next week. So I can live on very little and with my juice. So I don't need to commune. So I just, what do I do all day? People wonder, like, what do you do? Once I'm done with the Facebook Live, I'll go watch a little bit of Netflix, a little bit of news, read some stuff, and hang out with my dog, and just, look on Facebook and just gather data. Because this is how the Jilly Juice protocol was created, by the fact that I analyze all of you, and I analyze my behaviors and all of your behaviors and all of your patterns, and I draw patterns and I see patterns, and I also find ways to create analogies so that way I can bring together different contexts so you guys understand the bigger picture of the Jilly Juice world as well as the human body, and then all the other industries and activist groups, and you realize, and religion, and you realize that we're all pretty much the same. Okay, so so I have these people that people like to send me videos and stuff, and a lot of them are like vegan vegetarians or trying to get away from the meat supply, and then we see all over the news that, oh yeah, we'll save the earth by turning into vegans and vegetarians. And I'm thinking there's probably a I would say a double-sided intention with that. Okay, yes, it sucks to watch an animal die so you can eat it. It sucks to go watch, you know, some of aggressive points of nature with a shark eating a seal or a lion going after a zebra. I mean, that's tough. I used to watch Mutual of Omaha, so I always saw the circle of life on TV. And then we're so lucky we don't have to see the circle of life for humanity. All of those, the butchers and all that stuff are in like buildings and environments that we don't have to go into unless we want to. So but it's necessary at this point. A bustling society with 7 billion people is necessary to have meat. Okay, but what they're trying to say is that if we save the planet, if we want to save the planet, we could stop eating meat and we turn into a vegetarian and vegans. And I'm just letting you know that being a vegan, vegetarian, plant-based proteins will promote more malabsorption. Now, if you do the J juice, yes, you can get away with being a vegan vegetarian, almost like a monk. Okay, and so but then what do monks do all day? Very awesome, John. What do monks do all day? They sit and they study. They do a vow of chastity. They sit and study. And sometimes they'll go out and they'll be a blacksmith, or they'll do stuff to keep their monastery going. It's a very self-contained community. Okay, but they also die. Okay, so monks also die. So even though they're vegan and vegetarians, maybe I'm thinking they're vegan vegetarians and they don't eat meat, or maybe they do, but I'm thinking the ones that are vegan vegetarian don't eat meat. They still die. They're not getting the diverse food supply. They're not healing and sealing their gut. Yes, they're out there being they're being a blacksmith, keeping that monastery going, but they still recycle back to the earth. Okay, so in our society, we're not taking vows of chastity. If anything, all of you guys are having sex all over the place, having bunches of kids. Okay, you're ripping and running. You're going on vacations, motorcycle rides, drinking, partying every night or every weekend. You're going to work where you're dealing with people and all of their stuff. Some of you have very labor-intensive jobs where you're fixing trucks or hauling steel or working on the railroads or dealing with kids and all of their stuff, that you guys are constantly exposed. Okay, and you're always utilizing your minerals, because we live in a very labor-intensive society. Even sitting behind a desk can be labor-intensive because you're dealing with people on the phone. I remember when I was a call center, like an operator, like a switchboard operator, I tell you, I probably worked harder at being a switchboard operator than I was just sitting and being like an insurance salesman, making phone calls. Because when you're constantly fielding phone calls from everybody, and this is like for a life insurance company, so you're getting, so then you ask all these different questions when you call the switchboard, and you see that you press the button, you answer it, and then you go and forward the call to whatever, and you ask certain questions, and it's non-stop. And then at the end of the day, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to hear from anybody. I just want to sit and watch TV and eat my dinner and just decompress, because that took so much out of me. Okay, I probably worked harder being a switchboard operator than any other job I've ever had. Like, seriously. Okay, and so you're going to need nutrients. You're going to need to absorb those nutrients, and you're going to need diverse nutrients. So yeah, so you're going to need meat. You're going to need milk. You're going to need vegetables. You're going to need processed foods. You're going to need bread. You're going to need all of that, because you got to sustain your strength every single freaking day to deal with people that you don't really want to deal with all the time, but you have to, because you have to feed yourself. Because that's for our societies. You have to, but then, no different than you being a caveman. Okay, when you're a caveman, you got to go and hunt for your animals. Then you give it to your cave woman, and she goes and strips the meat off and does whatever she does. And then you got to go and protect your little area. You got to go and build a shelter. You got to go and build a fire and do whatever cavemen do. And that takes a lot. And that's why they were hunting animals. And then eventually then they have the agricultural society where you have both the agriculture and the animals. And then yeah, you have a very diverse society, because then people are procreating and they're having children. You're feeding more people and giving them all their needs, and you're sustaining different industries to support the needs of the burgeoning population. Yeah, you're going to have a very, very diverse food supply. So when it comes to like these weightlifters that are vegan and vegetarian, it's so easy to be a vegan and vegetarian and a weightlifter, because all you're doing is just manipulating and torturing your muscles to become bigger. All it is just muscle manipulation. Yeah, you don't need meat to do that, but then you're also tearing your body down, because you see the weightlifters, even the ones that eat meat and the ones that don't eat meat, or the military guys that are all vegetarian. They still have a short lifespan, but they can capitalize on the little window of opportunity to manipulate their body. No different than Hollywood, where your tenure in Hollywood is about maybe 20 years. And so you look cute for those 20 years, just like in our society, 20, 30 years of productivity, and you fitting into your role that you put yourself into, whether it's a model or a weightlifter or a military person. Okay, because people retire after 20 years of the military. And then when they're not good anymore, then they go and retire, and some will get into jobs that will fit what they did, and then they pass away. Okay, so eradicating meat is not going to make the earth better. What will make the earth better? What will make the earth better? If we stop dying and we stopped procreating. That's what will make the earth better. Yeah, we can fit 7 billion people on the planet, but you're seeing people glitch all over the place. You're seeing them just act crazy and making bad decisions, and some, then bearing children who are making bad decisions, and then contributing to the need for hospitals and hospice care and all of these different services that we don't absolutely love to fund if you are a Republican or even a Democrat. Okay, and so it just does. So that's why I don't subscribe to any of the politics, because if you claim balance, then you would be living indefinitely. You would have already reversed your cancer, disease, and chronic illness. You would have regrow all your hair on your head and everything out. You would not be aging in our society if you claim balance. So nobody is balanced out there that believes people should die and are aging and degrading with cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Once you do claim balance and you actually exemplify balanced behavior, you would not be discriminated against Trump, against Obama, against any politician, as well as any political platform. You would take yourself out of the war. You wouldn't be against the vaccines. You wouldn't be afraid of your community. You wouldn't be afraid of the skies. If you are actually balanced, you would have reversed your issues and you would take yourself out of the war. Whatever war you put yourself into, whatever hatred you have for anybody that's out there, you would take yourself out of that. Because if Bill Gates or the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds or any of these people that people are so afraid of in the Illuminati, if they truly wanted to hurt you and kill you, we wouldn't have 7 billion people on this planet. 7 billion people are a lot of freaking people. I can't even think of like how many football fields would hold 7 billion people. Okay, but that's a lot of football fields. I'm going to try to figure out how to actually put into perspective what 7 billion people are. But it's a shit ton of people. If you ever go to China, I've been to China. I've been into airplanes in China where everyone is just like, first come, first serve, get your seat. There is no order. It's all chaos. And everyone's hawking up loogies. And I'm telling you, going to China was like, holy crap. Nobody has respect for space in China. Okay? So, I mean, that should give you a little bit if you've ever gone overseas especially in some of the Asian countries or India. If you ever gone to India or China or Africa, there's a lot of people in those probably the most populated countries. Okay. But America, there's still a lot of people. I mean, you go into some of the inner cities and you go in some of the metropolitan areas. Yeah, it's like person on person on person. And right now, yeah, we're seeing everything's right on schedule. Remember that site, america2050.org, where they talk about the high-speed rails, the mega regions, and we call them human habitation zones, and they're just going to connect the different metropolitan areas are highly condensed of people, and then they're going to cordon off areas to allow biodiversity to flourish. It's already happening. We already have right now coming up Ohio, so was it Pittsburgh to Chicago. Yeah, Pittsburgh to Chicago, and then Columbus. And there's going to be a high-speed rail in between those metropolitan areas. And it's slated to be done by 2030, or not 2030, sorry, 2050. It's a 30-year project. Right on schedule. It's starting. Okay. So, you know, it's already happening in California. And sometimes, you know, and it's a controlled burn, so to speak. I mean, pardon the pun as far as California is concerned. But they're going to be dealing with some hard living out there in the sticks, to where, you know, PG&E and the government is going to price out people. Yes, my dog is funny. It's going to price people out of the market as far as utilities, because who's going to want to take, you know, a week or so every year to have their PG&E go down because of fire season. And their fire season gets worse and worse over there. Okay, yeah, they may have more rain, but then they have a dry season. Now you have more underbrush and more fuel for fires, and then the Santa Ana winds in California. So it's not going to get any better in California. Okay? So there is a controlled chaos of change going on. And some of you are not going to be able to handle it because you can't handle change. You cannot adapt to your environment. You're fighting it every step of the way. And so the whole thing with J Juice is you don't have to create a Faraday cage, which is basically what that movie Game Changers is about, is demonizing the meat industry, and it's all about promoting the plant-based. And so with all the different diets, like the keto diet or vegetarian diet, or all the different diets that are out there, it's all about either, you know, focusing on one food. Because why different diets, why they work very short term is because some of you have imbalances. Why medicines, why all the different detoxes work is because we have imbalances. Okay, and when humanity has imbalances, the mainstream media and the alternative mainstream media then find the different things that will then cater to your imbalances. And some people are like, oh, it doesn't work for me, but another person says it works for me. But it's temporary, because I've seen people go onto these different diets and these different exercise regimes. And yeah, they look great after somebody's on their ass telling them to stop eating gluten, stop eating wheat, stop eating sugar, get on the treadmill for 2 hours a day. Anybody is going to manipulate their body and change it when they do that kind of torture to their body, where they starve their body and then they torture it with exercise. Okay, that's no different than what they do in the Olympics. How do you think the Olympians become the Olympians? Because they do hard, torturous exercise at a very young age. Because I've yet to see an Olympian who's like 80 years old, who's already mineral depleted. No, the Olympians they start them out young, when they're still growing, when they're still developing, and then they manipulate their muscles and really train them, like brainwash them, body, mind, and spirit, and they're still growing, and they have enough mineral reserves to take on 5 or 10 years of really hardcore training. And then you see them, they get their medals and they go and endorse like Wheaties or something, and maybe they go into the acting world or maybe they don't. And so, and then you don't hear from them until way down the road. And then they're part of all these different foundations and cancer research and all of that. And that's the natural progression of Olympians, is they manipulate them and torture their body for a minute. And yeah, they win all these gold medals and they're like the fastest person on the earth. And then they start endorsing different products, just like Shaq O'Neal. And yes, they do donate to foundations and they help people who are in need. And so it just keeps them, credible in the public eye, and then they pass away. And that is that path for those people. But, I don't know. I'm getting off on a tangent. But yeah, so you can manipulate your muscles to do whatever you want for a short amount of time. That's what it comes down to. And so these diets really are just very, very temporary. And then you're creating a Faraday cage. What's a Faraday cage? Well, it's like a cage that's supposed to like put you in a bubble so you are shielded from the electromagnetic radiation, because people are thinking that there's going to be some kind of EMP attack or electronic attack against the population. And really all of the 5G and the satellites and all the different wars, I guess, electronic wars, your body can still adapt to those conditions. Okay, your body can still adapt. And so where you can, where you don't feel like you have to live in a Faraday cage or take on all these different diets indefinitely until you pass away, is first you have to change your outlook. Okay, be proactive with the right chemistry, and then change the way in which you actually perceive humanity. Does humanity have to die? Do you have to die? Do you have to fall into your parents' footsteps or your grandparents' footsteps and actually die? And that's what it comes down to. Because once you change your perception of life or death, you actually can change the way in which you adapt to this world. Okay? And then also means that you have to understand what adaptation means. And it's painful to adapt to new conditions. And you're always, if you have a weak body, it'll be very, very hard for you to adapt to just even going from upstairs to downstairs. It'll be very hard for you to adapt from going to summer to fall. The changing of the weather, the change of the barometer. Some of you can actually feel the barometer dropping. And you feel it in your arthritis. You feel it in arthritis, your bones. When you are feeling the weather changing, you are feeling everything change to where it's so painful for you, that means you have a weak body. But when you have a strong body, your adaptation process is still going to happen, but you're not going to feel it as much. You're going to be asymptomatic. That's basically what symptoms are, is your body trying to adapt to a new condition, a new entity. So these viruses, like the flu virus and all these different viruses, the Ebola virus and all these viruses, are still going to populate the earth, are still going to go and do their thing. And we still have more people in our society, new people, as well as dying people, having these viruses run through their body. And then guess what? They're communicable. And guess what? They made that strain stronger. So every single time you get sick, you make that strain stronger. And then you are communicable. And then you pass on to someone else who then has a weak body. It'll run through their body. They're going to be communicable. And that makes that strain 10 times, 15 times, 20 times stronger than before. And then they say, oh yeah, the flu shot is ineffective this year. No, every single flu shot is actually effective, regardless of how you actually react to it. Whether you have no reaction or a reaction, that flu shot was effective. So as long as they actually have the virus and everything in there, okay? But yes, if they're giving you the attenuated virus and you either get a reaction or a non-reaction to that flu shot, it is effective. The only way it's ineffective is if they already have a body count of people who received the vaccine and they died. And not because of the vaccine that everybody, how do I say this? That everyone that received the vaccine, if it was ineffective, they would already have a body count. And they would have to really look at correlation equals causation. Because not everybody who receives a vaccine actually has a reaction or has died. But the people that do, it means that their body is so. Why does somebody die from a flu from a flu shot? Because they already have a very weak and compromised body, and usually babies. Okay, so it's just a matter of, no matter what, you're gonna be exposed to the virus. Okay, so at least on a relatively strong body, you'll be able to handle it. And it's just that balancing. It's such a very, very careful thing that you have to balance out. But But yeah, I mean, for an ineffective flu vaccine would be a huge body count, and it would be either from the vaccinated or unvaccinated, because it would mean that there's a stronger version out there that even if you weren't vaccinated, you would still die from that flu virus. That's what would make the flu vaccine ineffective. Okay, and they can't project that now. They really can't. The only way they can really say something was ineffective is if after the fact, when they actually see, you know, they actually can look back and then count the bodies and figure out, well, did they really die from the flu vaccine or from something else? So it's so anyways, I'm getting off on another tangent, but the whole thing with that movie Game Changers, it's all about manipulating your muscles, manipulating your trajectory. No problem, John. As far as where you want to be on this earth for however long you're going to be on this earth. And so, yeah, it's easy to adapt for a certain amount of time to your job and to your husband or wife and to whatever it is you got to do, and then people die. So the whole thing with the Jilly Juice is you understand that adaptation is painful. You have to go through the changes in your body when you do take on the nutrition in the J Juice. And what I project in the future is that those that are doing the J Juice will actually survive the next pandemics that are out there on the horizon, because there's going to be a pandemic out there on the horizon. It's called the balancing forces. I mean, with the homeless population in California now bringing up ancient diseases like leprosy, and the plague is going to come up. Then you have the anti-vaxxers on weak bodies that are, yeah, they'll probably turn to colloidal silver and all that stuff, and then their kids are going to die because their kids are so weak, and they're applying them with colloidal silver. It's going to cause more issues that then when a virus does come around, a very strong one, and their kid is so weak because a mother's been applying them with colloidal silver every single day and elderberry syrup and all that stuff, they're not going to survive the next aggressive pandemic. So that's looming in the future, because when you look at mice in labs that biotech goes and does experiments on, they have a short lifespan of like 1 to 2 years. Okay, if you look at the lifespan of rats. And so when you pump them with the viruses and all the different elements that humans are exposed to relative to the state of, or relative to the mice's ability to process, okay, and then they see, then the offspring have a little more issues, and they pump up or expose that offspring to all the new viruses that are in that community. I mean, they create probably like an experiment, an example of an environment that every offspring is exposed to every generation, and the viruses become stronger and stronger. This should tell you right here, this is the vaccine schedule. This tells you the environment, okay, and all the different diseases that come from every generation, because people keep procreating on bodies that are very weak, and then these viruses become stronger and stronger and stronger. And so when you think about every, like, let's say they did 3 generations of mice, and now the third generation is now sterile, or they don't survive that new virus that's in the community because they've done the testing. You can actually predict the future of humans in mice. Yeah, you have to kind of bring it down to and shorten it up, because we have 60 years or 50 years to deal with it. They have 1 to 2 years. So they do it in proportion to what the mice can handle. But you can probably see generationally what's going to happen to humanity by just giving the mice the same elements that we're exposed to every generation. Okay, so yeah, so I predict that those are on the J Juice are going to survive the next crazy wave of evolution, and those that are not, okay, on J Juice are going to be suffering. I'm already seeing it right now. I'm watching my high school friends who, you know, the husband was a major breadwinner. Okay, well, he is now on, you know, he's now on half duty because he has a medical issue. Family's taking a pay cut. She has to go back to work. She hasn't been working in however many years. Kind of same situation as me. However, I'm working on my book and working on, all this stuff. So I'm kind of paving something for myself. And I'm crossing my fingers everything goes well between now and when Jason wants to go and take a break. I'm hoping it won't happen anytime soon until I get this thing off the ground. But this is what people are facing, is that at some point you guys are going to be coming down with something crazy that you won't even expect. And some of you are major breadwinners. Some of you are running your own companies. And then some health issue is going to then knock your ass down. And the whole thing with the J juice, it preemptively brings up everything that you've ever had a weakness in and strengthen it. So that way it doesn't come and surprise you and take you down for the next 4 or 5 years. And then some, and then indefinitely. So I would rather, be proactive applying the right chemistry than be proactive applying the wrong chemistry, which is what is big in the holistic world. See, the allopathic world is all about proactivity and reactivity with a type of different elements. And they use prescription drugs and procedures and immunotherapies. The holistic world does the same thing, but they call it something different. And they're proactively every season plying their kids with elderberry syrup and golden paste and colloidal silver. And these kids have weak bodies, and these are aggressive heavy metals. Colloidal silver is a heavy metal. And so it's just, it's applying the wrong, they're being reactive and proactive, applying the wrong chemistry. And this is why you see death in our society, aging and all of that, because people are being reactive and proactive, applying the wrong chemistry. And then they think that they should die, or people should die at some point. And so there you go, a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the J juice completely reverses all of that. And it says, okay, you got to deal with pain. You got to face the pain. You're going to have a very temporary, but very diverse diet in the beginning. Why I took off red meat in the beginning of your protocol is that some of you are very highly acidic, but even nuts are acidic. Any kind of protein, plant-based protein, can be very acidic. Hold on. Okay. And so there's chicken. And then down the road, when you finally get everything well balanced and you clear the pipes and you are, you eat certain foods and you don't get mucusy and all that stuff, then you can reintroduce foods back in your diet. You can eat red meat, or you can stay away from it. It's up to you. You can eat chicken, you can eat fish, you can eat everything that was not on the Jelly Juice protocol. You can eat the soy, you can eat milk, all that stuff. But why it is such a compartmentalized, very, like what some say, clean diet, is because we know that there are imbalances. We know people have high rates of candida, high acids, high sugars, which is acids, high mineral, they're highly mineralized. And so that's why we don't have the spices, but it's a very bland diet. And then you're bringing in a right data pack that is universal for all bodies, because cabbage and kale, part of the cruciferous vegetable family, have large amounts of prohormones in it and minerals. And then the pink Himalayan salt has the electrolytes and the minerals. Then you have the water as the carrier force. Then you have the fermentation byproduct of lactic acid, lactobacillus. Okay, so you get your acid. So you get your amino acid, you get your fatty acid, you get your prohormones, and you get your minerals. All of that in one pack. And then you also have the support of the diet that is relatively diverse. And then you heal and seal. And then if you want to reintroduce foods back in your diet where you can have cheese and all this other stuff, pizza, you give yourself at least 6 or 7 months, 8 months. Try the foods again that are not on the diet to see if you have mucus. If you have mucus, and you stay off those foods, because that's what happened to me. I reintroduced foods too early back, too early when I was on the Jelly Juice protocol in the beginning. And I went to this bar that had the fish that was deep fried, a hamburger and all that stuff, fries. And I ate that food too prematurely off the Jelly Juice protocol. I was felt sick. I had all this mucus come up. And why does mucus happen? Because the state of your body is such to where it may not be able to handle that much data right then and there, because your body has to build up to be able to handle your environment, the food supply. Okay, and we already have a government that has to make sure that your food and your air is relatively clean, relatively. But then you have individual bodies that will have then different reactions to different foods and different environments. And so you have to build up your body to be able to handle those changes in the environment, and as well as, yeah, it's changes in the environment. And so when I took my body to a reset, then I had to allow my body to strengthen up to handle the hamburgers, the fries, the processed foods, which are great in of itself, but on a weak body that still has imbalances, not yet. But now I could eat the hamburgers, the fries, the processed foods, the big, huge prime ribs, huge data packs of hormones and minerals, fatty acid, amino acids. And it tastes good, and my body isn't holding on to it. It actually releases any excess. I keep the pipes clean. The reason why people have cancer disease and chronic illness, because they have stagnation in their lymph nodes and their digestive system. And then you see guys in their 40s and 50s with a big gut. Guess what all that is? There's worms in there and there's poop. Worms and poop are in your gut when your gut's getting big, because you're not composting it correctly. And so guess what the worms do? They're just like when they go into a compost in a garden. The worms go and process the food so that way you stay alive. It's a symbiotic relationship until one day, you're not absorbing enough minerals, even though you're getting it processed from the worms. Your body is now losing the mineral reserves. And then that's when organs, like major vital organs, shut down. And so people don't survive heart attacks. They don't survive strokes. So yes, highly obese people, and even people who are very skinny, who are not absorbing enough minerals to then give them collagen and minerals and all that stuff and fat on their body. There's worms that are in there too, because you're still not processing things as you should. Okay. And so, yeah, I mean, worms happen because worms are necessary. The parasites are necessary when the body is malfunctioning. When the body finally functions correctly, you'll see the parasites disappear because you don't need them anymore. Because they have a place during your stagnation period. So I know it's a little scary to think about for those of you who are a little bit obese, because that's obvious right there. You're carrying that much crap in your body, literally. Something has to compost it so that way you don't die from all of that excess crap. Okay? So something to think about. So eventually down the road, somebody already projected this. Somebody already is in biotech. Back in the 80s, the Georgia Guidestones. You guys go look at the Georgia Guidestone. Somebody projected from 7 billion to 500 million. Someone projected biodiversity, where we are living symbiotically with nature, where we are guiding reproduction carefully. Somebody already projected that because they could see just through all the lab rats and experiments and injecting these mice with all the different viruses that we're already exposed to in the environment no matter what. Because animals create viruses, plants in different climates create more viruses and bacteria, they jump to humans. And then humans go and process it through, and then it jumps to another human. And this is where you have the different strains. Okay? It's not lab made or lab created. Why are there patents for all these different viruses? Because they make remedies, because you want remedies and immunotherapies and procedures. And we have a legal system to where if you have a remedy or a prescription drug for that virus, they have to patent that virus. So then they can do all the different experiments to figure out how they can create a cure, because everybody wants a cure. Okay? But all the conspiracy people are like, oh no, biotech has created pandemics. No, humans who are weak create pandemics. Watch LA and the homeless. Watch San Francisco and the homeless. Watch the anti-vaxxers and the homeless share the same bacteria with each other. It's going to be a pandemic if it isn't already in California. I'm so glad I'm not there anymore. I got out just in time. I just feel bad for my family that's still out there, but that's their choice. So yeah, so I mean, even just doing a teaspoon of J juice is not going to hurt you. Transition onto it, because you're going to have to. When you have so many different people who are glitching and weak, running their viruses through their bodies, making us stronger, and then we have what I'd say climate change, okay, which everyone has an opinion on that. But regardless, it's freaking October 21st, and it's like, how many degrees? It's like 60, it's going to be 70 degrees today. I came out here in 2010, and the snow was on the ground. And I was freezing my ass off, totally sick. Okay? So climate change is happening. Regardless if you believe it that has or has not happened, it's happening. You could say, oh yeah, the chemtrails are doing it. But regardless of who's doing it and why, like it really matters, you're going to have to adapt to the changing conditions. Because it doesn't matter who started it. It doesn't matter. I mean, it could be a very well a pattern of our universe. Just like all these different diseases are coming back. It's patterns because we have a weak society who has been spoiled with everything compartmentalized. All of your meat and all of your medicine and all of your different things are in different areas, so you don't see it. And then when you're sick, you want to blame them. You want to demonize. And that's what you're seeing right now in the population is entitled people with nothing better to do who are very sick out there demonizing industries. Instead of actually figuring out, you know, like, oh, I don't want to pay for, you know, I have to pay taxes. I got to pay this. I got to pay that. Oh my God, it's so horrible. Let's go build a commune on our own. Okay, so I can see like maybe 10 of you off-gridders, anti-government people who are anti-vax as well, like really off-grid, but no, they'll be half-ass off-grid. They'll still have their modern conveniences like their shovels and their pails and their metal and whatever. But let's say, yeah, they build their own little community. There's still going to be viruses go through that community. And where they're going to put their shit, you know, when you have 10 people who are pooping, where does that poop go? Who's going to process it? And then that poop gets into the garden, into the groundwater, and get to all that. I mean, off-gridders in their little communes are not going to last very long. Because the reason why we have a society with a municipality department, utility department, sewer department is because we have learned how to contain disease and contain viruses. But you get like 10 people who go off grid, they're going to eat each other alive. And then somebody is glitching and they rape somebody in there. Who's going to do the justice? And then it turns into the Salem witch trial. Then we're going to repeat history all over again. Because we already been down that road of off gridding. The 1700s was like off gridding. 1600s. The medieval days was off gridding. Because then people turn to baser instincts and they kill and they steal and they rape and they pillage because there's no other balancing force. And then it's going to be the one that's stronger. It's going to be the abusive one. I mean, absolute power corrupts absolutely, even in little communes. So anyways, I'm glad we have the side that we have. I'm glad we have the taxes that we pay. I'm glad we have the government that we have. I'm glad of all of that. So Jay just will have you see things a little more logical, not so emotional. But, eventually, yeah, there's going to be a reset. Hopefully you guys will be around. Those who are on my Facebook. Some of you will, some of you won't. And I've come to terms with that. And so, but I have my circle of people that are doing the JJs that I'm going to be around for a while. God willing. Because you never know what's going to happen in the future. But if, we have enough of you guys doing the JJs and we're connected through the internet, and there'll be generations out there that'll keep the internet going because I'm not running Facebook. But Mark Zuckerberg will hand the reins down to somebody else if he doesn't live indefinitely, who will then keep Facebook going, keep the connection of the internet going, keep the smart grids going. I'm fine with that. I'll live through this tipping point that we're going through, this major change management process that's going to happen. I look forward to seeing how it unfolds. And I'm already seeing predictors. Indicators are already there. I can predict what's going to happen because it's very easy. Humans are that predictable. And when you pay attention to indicators, you will be able to head off and sidestep anything that could potentially come your way. Okay? All right. Well, anyways, you guys do the JJuice. You have nothing to lose, really. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.